There you are.
Hi.
Okay, you've
How
lost
are
my
you?
head.
Yeah, I can't see the top of your head. Can you see me?
I can see you. And can you see me now?
I can see you now.
Awesome. The little new setup, so it's hard to know in advance how it's going to work.
Okay.
Welcome. So,
Thank you so much.
yeah, there. That's almost it.
Oh,
um, so you've had a bit of a storm in Ireland overnight, or?
we we have had a storm. So I messaged you earlier on via my colleague Amy to say
Yeah,
that
thank you.
we had no electricity, but thankfully it's come back now. So we're
Yay, just in time. Oh, I'm
just
so
in
glad,
time, just in time today.
so glad you could make it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. So good to meet you finally. Um, yeah, are we losing my top of my head? Erica will have my head if she can't see my head. Okay.
Can you
All
see
right.
me okay and hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good.
okay.
It's good. So welcome everyone, and
Thank you.
welcome to a chat with Roísín Maher of Finding a Voice, Clonmel, Ireland. And there's so much to hear about your various projects. So let's start by just finding out where you come from and your training and musically
Sure.
and otherwise and so on.
Okay. Well, where I'm from is a town in Ireland called Clonmel. So it is in County Tipperary. Some of you might have heard of it. It's a long way there. So it's
So I've heard.
a town, not very big. It's big by Irish standards, but probably not by the rest of the world standards. And yeah, so I grew up there with my two sisters, my mum and dad. And in terms of musical training, I suppose I would have started learning piano there as well with a very cranky nun. So we used to hit my fingers with a knitting needle. But anyway, and
Oh
then
no.
I
Oh.
know. But thankfully, it didn't put me off
I've heard that
learning the
story with
piano.
thankfully. I've heard that story
Mm.
with a ruler, but never with a knitting needle.
Not
Oh goodness.
a knitting needle, yeah. So,
Oh, metal one.
um, metal, yeah, no, not
Hmm.
even wooden. So, yeah, so I went to boarding school then, and eventually I went to college in Cork, where I did a degree in music. So that was a very long time ago. So that was a University College Cork, and I did a degree in music there. And then I did a master's degree in the University of Leeds in opera studies. So it was opera analysis and criticism.
Ah,
And yeah, and now I'm actually doing a doctorate in DCU, which is Dublin City University.
right.
And we might come back to that later because my doctorate is actually on women composers in the undergraduate music program. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear about that. So, yeah, Clonmel is where you came from, and it's not where you currently live, but it's where Finding a Voice
Finding a
is
voice
based.
is, yeah. So, I mean, as I said, I grew up in Clonmel and my mom still lives there. My sister Cleana, who co-founded Finding a Voice with me, lives there.
Okay.
And I actually married a man from Clonmel. So his
Okay.
family are there. So we have lots of reasons to be kind of back there, even though we're not living
Right.
there anymore.
Right.
And yeah, so that's why, for me, it was somewhere that I wanted to start finding a voice, because it's a town that isn't particularly well served by music provision, I suppose. I mean, there are some things taking place, but there wouldn't be as much activity musically as, say, for example, Dublin or Cork or Galway or Kilkenny or some of the bigger kind of cities in
Okay.
Ireland.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Cool. So what a gift to them that you're doing that project. I'm a little torn which direction to go in first. Can we talk about your doctorate first, and then let's talk about Finding a Voice
Okay, sure.
and
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
else there is to talk about? So
Okay.
yeah, so you're doing a doctorate in in Dublin City
In
University.
Dublin, yeah. So it's in DCU, but to be honest, most of it has been online because I started it during the pandemic, and I've only been up a couple of times to DCU, but I meet my supervisor and I'm part of a PhD group and we meet online every week. So that's nice. I feel that I have that support. So yeah, so that kind of really rose out of my interest in women composers. And also I've been teaching at another university, Munster Technological University, for the last, since 2004. So a good long time. And I suppose I was just interested to know what other people were doing in terms of including women composers in their history teaching or in their kind of curricula. So it's a little bit of nosiness, really, and I'm really at an early stage of it, but I'm really interested to hear from anyone who's tuning in, because I'm interested in good practice overseas as well, and as well as what's going on in Ireland in terms of how women composers appear in undergraduate music degrees, and to what extent are they included and covered. So yeah.
Okay. So this doctorate focuses mainly on Ireland, or strictly on Ireland undergrad programs in music?
Yeah, I think that is going to be the main focus. I think it is going to be the main focus is going to be Ireland, because I suppose in Ireland at the moment there are 14 different colleges and universities offering degrees in music. So it's quite a manageable number to to look at and survey. It's not too many, but it's a good enough number to get a good picture. And I think also a lot of the research on women in music is coming from maybe the other side of the Atlantic or from other parts of the world. And so I thought it would be interesting to look at what's happening in Ireland in an Irish context.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. And that you can do it in Ireland is that's
absolutely. Yeah.
So is it how will you do that research then? Kind of a qualitative or data, or how are you going to go about
it? It's going to be quite mixed methods, I think. So I will have some quantitative data and then qualitative data. So I'm as I said, I'm at an early stage still, so I'm planning to kind of have a look at, first of all, at what's on the official programs, and then hopefully do some questionnaires of students and staff, and also do some interviews and focus groups, and get a more complete picture. So that's the plan. So yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's such a fantastic idea for a doctoral project.
Oh, thank you, Sandra. Thank you. I'm really excited about it.
So you must have people there to work with, mentoring this project, who are similarly interested. You're not alone in Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the moment in Ireland there's a lot of debate around it, and I don't want to jump too far ahead because I know you have some other questions about what is being done on women composers in Ireland. But in terms of my doctorate, my supervisor, Dr. Patricia Flynn, is great support, and I'm in a really kind of nice PhD group as well. So so that's great. We bounce ideas off each other and we present material to one another, and it's really supportive. So yeah.
That sounds wonderful. And I guess you're a very busy person by the sounds of it, running a concert series. I never know whether to call Finding a Voice, is it a festival considered, or a concert series? How do you...
That's a really good question, because I think we probably sometimes say festival and sometimes say concert series. I think I think in the beginning we said concert series because I think possibly the funding we were applying for kind of said no festivals, and so we were like, oh no, it's a concert series. But that was a couple of years ago, and now I think it has quite a festival feel because it does all take place in a few days. So it's not a concert series in terms of taking place over, maybe a month over kind of several months. So it probably is more like a festival. And certainly, I suppose the last few, the last live iteration of it in 2020 before the pandemic, it did have that kind of festival feel, so I think we're probably moving towards festival now, but we call it whatever,
Okay, it's a bit of both.
So yeah.
So you said you and your sister, say her name again.
So my sister is Cleana.
Cleana.
And,
Okay.
yeah, and I better mention my other sister Dervla, who is over in the States, just in case she's watching.
Okay. Dervla also.
Yeah.
You know that I have this Irish names thing in my life. Both my kids have Irish names, so I'm always interested in how beautiful the names are. So you and Cleana decided to found this project. Tell me when and how and why. And it's yeah. Might be a big story, but I'd love to hear about it.
It's a big story. It's one of those things, I don't want to say it almost happened by accident, not that it wasn't something I was interested in, but I suppose, if you told me 5 years ago or 6 years ago that it would have grown to this, I wouldn't have really believed it. But my sister Cleana was working at an art centre in Clonmel. So she had been living in France for the previous decade and had just come back to Ireland, and she had got this great job at the art centre in Clonmel. And her background is theatre, and so she came to me when she was down visiting, and we were up late talking and probably having a glass of wine and chatting over the kitchen table, and she said, "Oh, have you any music related ideas? I need some music ideas for next year." And I said, "Well, what about a concert or some concerts of music by women around International Women's Day?" And so she said, "Oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea." So she brought it to her board, and they said, "Yeah." So we applied for funding, and originally, I think we just thought maybe 1 or 2 concerts, but we thought, look, we'll put in for funding for like 5, 6 concerts, and then maybe we get funding for concerts. And so, which was fantastic, and it was just such a vote of confidence from the Arts Council in Ireland, to give us that, and I suppose the fact that it was with the Arts Centre, and I had a track record in working in kind of music and arts management. So I suppose they knew that I was somebody who was going to be able to deliver on this project. It wasn't something kind of pie in the sky that if I said I was going to make it happen, it would happen. So then we got this money, and I was going back to artists and saying, yes, we got the money and to go ahead. And then it just really grew from there. So the first 2 years we were associated with the Arts Centre in Clonmel, and then Cleana actually moved to a new job, which is also in Clonmel in the arts, but with a festival called Clonmel Junction Arts Festival. And so we decided to set up Finding a Voice, I suppose, as an independent entity, but we still get a lot of support from Clonmel Junction Arts Festival and also from the South Tipperary Arts Centre, which is great. We're all arts organisations together in a small town. So yeah,
collaboration, beautiful. And how did the name Finding a Voice come about?
Yeah, so I suppose I came up with the name because to me it encapsulated the whole idea of women composers trying to I suppose trying to find a voice and trying to be heard as well, and it got across the idea of music and also of, I suppose, the authorial voice, and I suppose for many women composers, they might say, I don't need to find my voice, I have my voice. But it's really about having that voice being heard by people and introducing people to this amazing music that, maybe they mightn't have come across. Yeah.
Sorry, we're
And
getting a
you
bit
know,
of
again, I suppose we're getting a bit of okay.
an internet issue there. I think we're okay now. It just comes in and
Are we
out a little
okay?
bit.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries. Do you
I've kind
still
of
have,
moved over to.
do you have the wind from the storm, or is it all past?
I think there is still probably a bit of wind from the storm. There's still
Yeah.
kind of lines down and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
sorry about
Okay.
that.
No worries. It's great that you're here. So, yeah, so beautiful. So Finding a Voice 2022 happens quite soon.
It does. It does. We're on the countdown. It's happening in a couple of weeks' time or less. So this time, 2 weeks, we'll be in the middle of the Broadway Babes and West End Girls concert. So this is our kind of foray into musical theatre. So it's the first time we've included musical theatre in Finding a Voice. So I'm really excited about that. But we've a real variety. I suppose from the beginning, I just thought, well, if Finding a Voice is going to be about music by women, that I just didn't want it to be stuck in a particular genre, so the main focus, I suppose, really is classical music, but we've also, we include jazz, traditional Irish music, and now this year, the musical theatre. And then also have, music from, Hildegard of Bingen right through to, works that have been commissioned for the festival. So there's a real range there. So that's something I suppose that we had really from the very beginning. We had early music, and we had, I suppose, 19th century repertoire and early 20th century, and then contemporary as well. So it's been something that we did from the start.
So this year, you have the Broadway West End concert, and what other things are being featured this year?
So so we're starting a little bit earlier. So we're starting on Thursday, the 3rd of March, and then we're running through until Tuesday, the 8th of March, which of course is International Women's Day. So on the Thursday night, we have a new piece by an Irish composer, Linda Buckley. So that was commissioned especially for the festival, and so we're going to have the world premiere of that. And yeah, so it's a new piece for flute and voice with words by an Irish poet called and I'm really excited about that. So that'll be great.
Sorry, Roisin.
It's
say
breaking
that
up.
poet's name again. Sorry, that internet.
Oh yeah. So it's Dirin ní Ghriafa. So
okay,
yeah.
Spell that. Okay. So that's the opening.
That's the opening concert, and we actually also, in that opening concert, we have a composition competition for emerging women composers, and we've run that also every year since the first Finding a Voice. And so this year, actually at the moment, our adjudicator, Judith Ring, who's another wonderful Irish composer, so she is going to pick the winning piece, and then that will also get its first outing at the opening concert on Thursday the 3rd. So that'll be great. And that's featuring two fantastic performers. So there's an Australian flutist, Lena Andonovska, who is also a very dear friend, and she's in my PhD group in DCU. So it's lovely to have her at the festival as well. And she's going to be joined by an Irish singer, Michelle O'Rourke. So again, it's just great to, they've partnered up a few times. So I'm really excited to hear that combination of voice and flute. And then on the Friday lunchtime, we have Samantha Egga. So again, I'm super excited. So she told us the other day that actually her father is coming as well. So we're so excited. We're going to have a kind of family reunion at the concert. Yeah, so that's great. So she's going to be playing music by Florence Price, of course, and Margaret Bonds and Kapralova, the Czech composer. I don't want
Oh,
to. Yeah, so all of them are going to be Irish premieres, and we're so excited to have her come over. So she's going to be giving a lunchtime concert on the Friday, and then she's going to give a talk on the Saturday morning about her discovery of these composers. So
okay.
yeah.
That's
And then
wonderful.
Friday night, as I said, yeah. So yeah, we're it's. I think there's a lot of variety in the program this year, which is great. But it's something I try and do every year. And then
Yeah.
we have the musical theatre, the Broadway Babes. So we have an Irish singer, Sinead O'Donovan, who's actually from Clonmel, and so she's going to be taking a few of the solos. But we've also got a big ensemble from the Cork School of Music. They have a degree in musical theatre, so they're going to form the ensemble.
Okay.
And we've got this great musical director, David Hayes, who teaches in the School of Music, and he's kind of leading everything. And it's going to be a big musical theatre extravaganza. So that'll be
That's so
super. And
fun.
live band. And yeah. So that's been great to kind of see that coming together as well.
Yeah.
And we actually, I went into the rehearsals last night, and it's sounding super. So yeah,
Wow.
very excited
Awesome.
about that. And then on Saturday we have two Irish musicians, Dara Morgan and Mary DeLay. And they're currently based in London, but they're coming back for this concert, and they're going to do this lovely program of music by Clara Schumann, Lily Boulanger, Ruth Crawford Seeger, and Florence Price. And they're also going to do a couple of pieces by another Irish composer, Deirdre McKay. So that'll be a real kind of journey, I suppose, really through music from the 19th century through to pieces that have been written very recently. And then in the evening we have a wind quintet, Cassiopeia Winds, and they're going to do pieces by Amy Beach and Jennifer Higdon, who is we're also going to do a piece by Louise Ferenc, so her sextet for piano and wind quintet. So so that's fantastic. So I heard this particular piece in a string quartet version, or sort of piano and string quartet with this same pianist, Pia Cregarvey, a couple of years ago, and it's like this kind of mini piano concerto. It's an amazing piece. And so I said to Pia, we'll have to try and do that again, or we'll have to do that in Finding a Voice. And so we're actually doing the wind quintet version this time. So
Ferenc wrote both versions.
Yeah, well, I think I think the wind quintet, or the wind sextet rather, is the original version. And as far as I know, so that was the one she wrote first. I'm not actually sure whether she made the arrangement for string quartet or if somebody else made the arrangement for string quartet. But the piano part obviously stays the same in both. But the wind version is the original version. So yeah. So yeah,
wonderful.
So that'll be great. And then on Sunday we've got a few I suppose kind of things on screen. So we have a new opera by another Irish composer, Amanda Feary. So we're going to do a screening of that. It's a video opera that was commissioned last year by Irish National Opera. And then we have musician Pauline Scanlon, and so she's sort of traditional but kind of modern traditional, so it's kind of quite genre defying. It's difficult to categorize. So she's going to be doing a concert on Sunday afternoon, and then we have a little break, and then on International Women's Day we're going to have another Irish composer, Eilish Ní Riain. So she's just written this new song cycle, and it's going to be performed with music by Lily Boulanger, and also some poetry by the poet Jessica Brown. So that will be our International Women's Day concert, and we're going to broadcast that one, and probably not live, but we will be putting that concert up for audiences overseas, and then probably some extracts from the other concerts as well.
Okay, I hope so. Last year, I mean, because things were virtual last year, that's how I came to know about you, and I enjoyed what I was able to come to virtually. But this year, I'm out of luck unless you put it up. It's not being simul streamed or anything this year.
It's not being simul streamed. No, you're right. So last year we live streamed from Clonmel, and at the time in Ireland everything was very shut down, and so we couldn't have live concerts. But the live streaming, we're really happy with how it went, and it did mean that we were able to bring Finding a Voice to new audiences overseas. It was completely terrifying, and it was
a lot extra.
Yeah, it was tricky, and you know, it's expensive as well when you're kind of live streaming, because you need to have more kind of technical crew. And so this year we are going to record all the concerts. And then we'll put up that International Women's Day concert up on YouTube in its entirety. And then what we'll probably do is maybe put up some extracts from the other concerts, so that people get a flavor of Finding a Voice for 2022.
Yeah. Oh, good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Wouldn't want to miss out completely. It sounds.
I know.
Well, like so much. Rich.
Yeah, it was so great last year because we had hundreds of people kind of tune in, and it was fantastic to feel that sense of people around the world kind of tuning in and watching. So we don't want to lose that. So we won't do the simulcast, but we will definitely be putting up some of the concerts online. So
great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I guess to go forward, adding the whole virtual component, you'd have to really get more grants and more, like that's a huge project. Yeah.
I think it's just it is I suppose it is more challenging technically to do that, and I know that some festivals are kind of managing to do it, so we definitely will keep that digital component. Because
fantastic. Oh, now we're really losing it. Wi-Fi wise.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Roisin, I missed that last sentence. Oh, there's your sister, Cleona. Yay. Hello.
Is Cleona there? Oh, hi, Cleona.
Yeah. I'm trying to wave. Sorry, I missed a little bit of that last sentence, but I was just going to say that one would think that the virtual streaming idea over time, over the next few years, should get easier, less complicated. Hey? Maybe even cheaper.
I think so.
So
yeah, hopefully. I think. Yeah, anyway, but I mean, we are looking forward to having live audiences again.
Yeah, definitely.
So in 2020, which was the last festival that we had with live audiences, it was just before the pandemic, started to really shut things down. And so, for example, in Ireland, our last concert was on Sunday night, and it was this wonderful orchestra, and it was just fantastic. And then that was Sunday night, and then on Thursday all the schools shut and everything started to kind of go just to shut down, I suppose, really over here. But there was really, I think we were probably one of the last kind of live events to take place before the pandemic really hit. Right. So we're excited to be back now and have live audiences again.
Yeah. Fantastic. In a way, I guess you're lucky that you only kind of lost that 1 year of completely live.
Yeah.
Because you just made it in 2020.
Just made it under the wire.
Yeah. Oh boy. So, well, it's still my hope to get over there.
Absolutely. We want to have you over here.
We'll talk about that as the world opens up a little more. So I imagine that people come from far and wide. Then it's not just Clonmel, but
No,
what
I
a lot
mean,
of riches you're bringing to Ireland and to your area. It's,
yeah, well, that's the hope, I suppose, really, is that it becomes somewhere that people will go, oh, I want to travel to there and hear
yeah,
that music. You know, it's all kind of collected in one place over a great weekend. And
yeah,
um, so, yeah, so you know, there are people who travel from other parts of Ireland, and then we have had some overseas visitors at previous festivals. So, 2 years ago in 2020, there was an American couple who were actually on their holidays, and then they had picked up a flyer in the hotel where they were staying, and they decided to kind of swing by, and they just loved it, and they were like, oh, we're going to come back again, this is so wonderful. And you know, so
yeah.
it's
Okay.
yeah, so I mean, we'd love to have people traveling to, you know, to Ireland and to Clonmel for, you know, for finding a voice, because it's a
Right.
great opportunity to hear, you know, if you are interested in music by women composers, you know, just to hear some, I suppose, some music in a short space of time, you know, from Hildegard and
Right.
sort of early music right through to, you know, to more contemporary music as well. So
And
yeah.
where else would you get that experience of being exposed to so much Irish content also in that kind of a
Um,
context? Like,
Well, I suppose, I mean, there are some other great festivals in Ireland. So there's the West Cork Chamber Music Festival,
right,
which takes place in the summer, and you know, their focus is chamber music rather than, say, women composers. But
right,
again, they've been going for decades now. They're very established, you know.
right.
And then in terms of new Irish music, there's the New Music Dublin is a festival that takes place in. They take place in, I think, kind of around April now, and again, their focus is really on Irish music, contemporary Irish music, and also contemporary music by other by international composers as well.
Hmm.
It's on new music. I don't know that there's anyone else doing that kind of spread of, you know, from, you know, Middle Ages right through to the present day in the same way. But I'm sure somebody will probably log in now and tell me that they do.
There's a
I can
message
see in the,
from your sister. What is she saying? It's the
she's saying, the range that I love every year. I'm getting a
uh-huh.
great sense of the history of, yeah. So I
Yeah,
suppose that was one of the other things when, you know, apart from the sort of genre of, you know, sort of idea, not wanting to be in a silo of a particular genre, but also, you know, I mean, women have been composing music for, you know, for centuries, if not
right.
millennia. And I suppose the idea was that, you know, it's not something new, it's not something recent. These people, you know, these women have been here for, you know, for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's just that, you know, the music isn't performed very often. It's not that it's not there, and it's not that
Okay.
it's not good. It's, you know,
Right.
so yeah.
In that regard, I mean, there's certainly been this kind of commonly held belief that they didn't exist. Composers who were women either didn't exist or couldn't have been any good. And I think many of us are embarrassed to have found that we were buying into that lie. And wow, how recently we kind of went, wait a minute, that's not true. For you, I think it's a longer period of time that you've been, you know, not buying that story. So I'd kind
Yes.
of be interested in your waking up, or were you always kind of aware in this way of all this richness?
No, I mean, I certainly wasn't always aware at all. And I think, you know, when I did my first degree in Cork, you know, I don't think there were any women composers featured. There was somebody, an Irish composer, Marion Inglesby, and she was a couple of years ahead of me in college, and she was a composer. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, that's very, you know, that's very brave of her. You know, it just seemed
Right,
so unusual. You know.
right.
And then I went to Leeds, and I kind of discovered feminist musicology. So this was in the early 90s. And
Okay.
you know, and just kind of reading, you know, work by Susan McClary and you know, all that kind of feminist musicology of the early kind of late 80s, early 90s. And that really kind of opened my eyes and ears, I suppose, to different ways of of looking at music and listening to music, but I still didn't have that interest in women composers per se. And I remember somebody saying to me, but what about women composers? And I was like, oh yeah, yeah, but I didn't really know of any, apart from, Clara Schumann and Fanny
Yeah.
Mendelssohn, maybe, and Ethel Smythe,
Yeah. Right.
And then I think it was actually when I worked in the Contemporary Music Centre in Dublin, and I suppose I came into contact with so many amazing Irish women composers there that I started to see composition as something that, that many women just did, and they didn't identify as, oh, I'm a woman composer, they're a composer,
Right, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so then so I suppose it made me kind of think about things differently. And then I was teaching at the college where I'm still teaching, in Cork, and we were changing from a certain kind of degree system to a new. We were kind of going from being every term to semestering, so we were like semesters. So we had to redo all our degree courses. And my head of department said, oh, what do you want to do modules in? And I was like, oh, I'd love to do a module on women in music. And so this was because I think it was the kind of thing that I wanted to have done when I was an undergraduate, because I was looking at my students and I was saying they're still not kind of playing music by women composers, and it's all still very much as it had been, kind of 20 years previously when I'd been a student. And so I kind of set up this course that, as I said, it was supposed to be something that I would have liked to have done at their age, and so, yeah. So, and then
what a great opportunity.
Yeah, and that kind of forced me as well to kind of, obviously I'd be preparing for lectures, and, just every year it was like it's spoiled for choice with all this richness of material, and like, what do I include? What do I leave out? And then students would kind of come to me with ideas as well. And, and they opened my eyes to composers that I hadn't come across previously. And one of the things that I did with the module was students could either perform repertoire by women composers, or they could write an essay on some topic related to women in music. Nice. And I remember the first time, I had a group of students performing, and it was like Rebecca Clark's Viola Sonata and some Lieder by Fanny Mendelssohn, and, works by Clara Schumann and Amy Beach. And I remember getting really emotional, and I realized that I'd never heard that material live ever. That was my first time hearing it live. And and it was such a big deal for me. I was like, wow, why isn't it being performed more? And so then that's also, I suppose, it fed into finding a voice, because, after a few years with the module, and it was running every 2 years, and I was like, okay, things aren't happening fast enough. How can I speed it up? And so that was part of the reason behind finding a voice, was to, just to give people a platform to, to perform this and give audiences a chance to hear it, and create those performance opportunities. So, yeah, because I think it's, in the same way that, what you're doing, and we spoke about this yesterday, it's like this really practical thing. How do you find the music? Set up your wonderful database, and I was like, how do I get the music out into the world, it's like, okay, set up this festival that has performance opportunities for performers, and also, the chance for audiences to come along and hear this music. So, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of overlap there, in our mission. I'm moved by that idea of the first time when you heard your students performing. I'm so moved by that, how you felt, like weeping. I
actually started crying, and I was supposed to be marking this, I was supposed to be grading it, and I was there kind of like, trying to hide the fact that I'd started crying,
Yeah. I still get it. I mean, I think for the first several months, when I finally got my epiphany in 2019, almost every time I would be practicing or discovering, reading some new things, I'd find myself weeping as well. I was like, where have you been? Oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. And I'm only now hearing you, and yeah, so that's so moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Oh.
So do you have you're not supposed to have a favorite child or favorite composers. That's kind of a stupid question, but do you have any particular connection with any composer or composers, historical composers, I guess?
I think it's really hard. It's really hard to kind of pick out. I think.
Yeah.
I do, I have to say I do love Lily Boulanger's music. Her orchestral music, I think, is just so, it's so far ahead of its time, and so I love her music. But I've been fascinated for the last few years by this French-Irish composer, Auguste Olmez.
Yes.
And she, I just think she was amazing because she just wouldn't take no for an answer.
Right.
She wanted to be taught by, by Fauré, and just kept, asking until he relented, and, and also she wrote for these incredibly large forces. So,
Right.
I suppose we have this idea of women composers writing for kind of small chamber, and obviously that's not true of all women composers, but Olmez, she wrote this piece for like 1,000 people, so she wasn't the slightest bit intimidated by, by writing these big, grand, kind of epic works and operas, and I love that about her.
I always think of her as a force to be reckoned with.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that's
and she, so she. I don't know that she actually visited Ireland, but of course she wrote an orchestra work called Irland, and then she donated the royalties from it to the Conradh na Gaeilge, which was this kind of patriotic organization in Ireland.
Okay.
So she had this very strong connection with the country, even though she was French essentially.
Very French, yeah.
Yeah.
There was one of her songs has something to do with Ireland, maybe more than one of her songs. Her songs are incredible output as well.
Yeah. We actually, as a kind of a Christmas card this year, we did we recorded her Noël d'Irlande. So two of my dear colleagues in the School of Music, Kelly Lonergan-Petku and Gabriella Meyer, so they recorded the Noël d'Irlande for this Christmas, So, but she has a number of songs, I think, that reference Ireland.
I think. Yeah.
And the songs are beautiful. They're really they're lovely.
She was pretty prolific as a song composer. Well, as a composer, but and it's just incredible writing. Yeah. So fantastic. That makes sense that you'd mention her, of course. That's We have one little video of one of her pieces on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
Ce qu'on dit something de Noël. Again, it's a Christmas kind of a tableau of the shepherds and fluty kind of sounds. It's such orchestral writing for the piano. So
well, I think she kind of really dreamed big, and that's interesting that you say that about the orchestral writing for the piano,
because even in the songs also I find the accompaniments, she's hearing colors rather than this is a piano part.
Yeah.
So great. So I guess I've been jumping around a little bit here and there with you because there's so much. Do you, just going back to finding a voice, I wanted to follow up on that, like for the future, do you have visions of how you want to, is it something that you want to continue or something to grow in certain ways, or what what's the vision if you
No,
can share that.
it's definitely something I want to, it's definitely something I want to continue, I mean, every year around this time when we're kind of like, I'm super busy and I'm like, I just think, but I do really want to continue because,
Oh, yeah.
I just think it's important, I love all the music that we put on, and I just think it's great I love going to the concerts, and
Oh, yeah.
I suppose for the future, I would love to do larger scale things, I mean, I would love to do more orchestral music, because I think that's one of the big challenges, because
Right.
I think that, there are more and more chamber musicians and solo musicians, singers, who are taking on this, this repertoire and introducing it to audiences. But I think, the big obstacle is, is kind of orchestral music, and again, we spoke about it a little bit yesterday, and I was saying that, I think almost like the chamber music is the kind of the small nimble boat, and then the orchestral music is this big kind of liner, and there's so many people involved. There are boards, there are conductors, and big ocean liner, and it takes a longer time to kind of change course, and I suppose, I would love to, because I don't want to reinforce the idea that women only wrote chamber music or only wrote, sort of, for smaller forces, because there's some incredible orchestral repertoire there.
Right.
So that would be one thing that I would love to do. But I think just, I would love it also to be a destination festival that people travel to, to hear some amazing music over the course of a weekend. And I remember like 2 years ago, somebody came up to me at the final concert. This was the last live concert. And they said, I'd actually forgotten until you started speaking, that it was a concert by women composers, that they were just at a great concert. And they were like, I forgot that was actually the point of it, and that's what it is, for people to just go to a great concert or a great series of concerts. And, it just happens to be, but there's no one style. There's no, it's just really to get music that isn't often performed and get it performed and have people listen to it and come to love it. Yeah. What
a gift you're giving. No, that feels so much more like, I want to call it a festival.
Yeah.
It just feels like so much celebration and riches. I keep saying that word, but so the way for people to get in touch or find out more online about Finding a Voice and about your work.
So I mean, I guess they can follow us on social media, on Instagram, or they can visit the website, which is findingavoice.ie, and we have our 2022 program up there. So I'm actually, at the moment, I'm putting together our program for 2023. So so it's so I suppose, the website and social media are the two main ways, and tickets are available on Eventbrite at the moment. So
and that you can get through findingavoice.ie takes you to the Eventbrite.
You can get onto Eventbrite, or if you go onto Eventbrite and look up Finding a Voice, it should probably bring you to our kind of collection of concerts as well. And then we also have the YouTube channel. So again, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, when we put up some of the material from the concerts in 2022, you should get those.
And that's youtube.com/Finding a Voice, I guess.
I think, again, if you if you put in Finding a Voice Clonmel, Finding a Voice Clonmel.
Okay.
So
and on Instagram,
so I'm
here. Sorry, I was just going to say, on Instagram, right now you're on your personal Roisin's Instagram, but there's also the Finding a Voice Instagram, right?
Oh, okay. I thought I was. I thought I was on Finding a Voice Clonmel. Oh, okay.
I
actually
I'm not sure, but
Clonmel.
Okay. Well, there's both anyway.
Sandra, I actually wanted to. Yeah. I'm really sorry.
I don't know why
I'm Finding a Voice.
No.
I don't know why I did that.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I know initially when I looked for you, I ended up, yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But both are in existence on Instagram. So
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I actually thought I was on as Finding a Voice,
no,
so
it's
that's my
totally
bad.
no,
Um,
nothing to apologize for at all, at all, at all. What I wanted to say is, among the people who are just here with us, any questions for Roisin, or anything you want to know about the festival or Ireland, or um, in any case, this little chat will be up on our Instagram channel, Piano Music She Wrote.
oh, super. Yeah.
And we will also be putting it, Erica's so good about doing that, putting it up onto the YouTube channel as well. So it'll be there.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So lovely
Very
to
good.
talk to you. So
No, it's lovely to
exciting
talk to you too.
about all of that, the festival, and also your project for your doctorate. I can't wait to hear how it unfolds. So
Well, thank you so much.
wonderful
And
work you're doing.
thank you for all the wonderful work that you're doing as well with Erica. It's it's so important, and it's great to get this sense of of people around the world, sort of all working towards towards the goal of making this music more accessible and kind of putting it out there into the wider world.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah.
It really feels quite wonderful to connect across the ocean, and we're all doing our piece. And speaking of that, next week I'm looking forward to a conversation with the French pianist Jean Ures, who did one of our videos in our Friends video project. She did a beautiful performance of Mélisande by Mel Bonis, and she's in Texas now. And so she's going to talk to me next week all about all things Mel Bonis. And look forward to that. So everybody tune in. And I'm going to post in the next day or so. I have quite a roster for the next 2 months or so. So I'm going to post all of those so you can put those in your calendar. Yeah. Anyway, thank you again, Roisin. And thank you everyone for joining us. And take care. We'll say goodbye for now.
Thanks. And thanks everyone for joining. Bye.
Thank you.